Sarah had never imagined that she would find herself standing at the edge of a sprawling Texas ranch, staring out at rolling fields that seemed to stretch forever. The sun was just rising, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, and the air carried the fresh scent of hay and earth. For someone who had spent most of her life in the city, this was both exciting and terrifying. She had come to the ranch for a summer job, hoping to experience a life very different from her own. But she had no idea what challenges awaited her. The ranch itself was impressive. Wooden fences lined the property, separating fields where horses and cattle roamed freely. There were barns with large sliding doors, a cluster of small houses where the ranch hands lived, and a main house that sat proudly at the center. The place was alive with movement. Horses neighed in the distance, and the faint sound of cows lowing carried across the fields. It was beautiful, but it also seemed intimidating. Sarah adjusted the strap of her bag nervously. "Are you Sarah?" A deep voice called. She turned to see a tall man walking toward her. His boots crunched in the gravel, and he wore a wide-brimmed hat that shadowed his face. There was a strength to his movements, but his eyes held a calm, steady warmth. "Yes, I'm Sarah," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. "I'm Jack," he replied with a nod. Sarah swallowed. I hope I am." Jack chuckled softly, sensing her nervousness. "Don't worry. We'll take it slow. You'll learn quickly enough. Come on, I'll show you around." As they walked, Jack pointed out the different areas of the ranch, the barns, the pastures, the areas where the animals were fed, and the corral. Sarah tried to absorb everything. She had expected hard work, but seeing the scale of the ranch and the number of animals made her stomach tighten with anxiety. Her first task came sooner than she expected. Jack led her to a barn where several horses had just returned from a long journey. Some of them were covered in dust and sweat, their hooves caked with mud. Jack stopped and looked at her. "These horses need a good cleaning and some care," he said. "I'll help you get started." Sarah hesitated, glancing at her city clothes. She had worn a summer dress and sandals, thinking this job would involve light chores, not mucking out stalls and grooming large animals. She felt a rush of panic and said softly, almost pleading, "Please, don't make me undress." Jack's eyebrows lifted, but there was no judgment in his eyes. Instead, he smiled kindly. "Relax," he said. "I'm not asking you to do anything uncomfortable. Here, let me show you something." He led her to a small changing area where a set of overalls and boots hung neatly. The overalls were practical, sturdy, and clean. Sarah realized that this was not about forcing her to change, it was about being safe and comfortable for the work ahead. With Jack's encouragement, she changed into the overalls. The fabric felt stiff at first, but she quickly realized how practical it was. The boots were heavy, but they would protect her feet from hooves and mud. Sarah felt a mixture of relief and embarrassment. She had expected the worst, but Jack had handled the situation with patience and respect. Once she was ready, Jack guided her to the first horse. "Start with brushing," he said. "Be calm and gentle. Horses can sense fear or hesitation. Talk to them, move slowly, and they'll respond well." Sarah approached the horse cautiously. It was larger than she expected, with dark, shiny eyes that seemed to study her every move. She raised the brush slowly and began to follow Jack's instructions. At first, the horse shifted nervously, but Sarah kept her voice soft, whispering reassuring words. Gradually, it relaxed under her touch. Jack watched silently, stepping in only when necessary. He showed her how to clean the hooves, inspect the mane, and check for small injuries. Sarah was amazed at how much knowledge he had and how confident he was around these powerful animals. She began to see that ranch life was about more than physical strength. It required patience, observation, and respect. The day continued with one task after another. Sarah learned to muck out the stalls, replace fresh bedding, and carry heavy buckets of water. Her arms ached, her hands were sore, and her boots were covered in mud. But she felt a sense of accomplishment she had never experienced in her city life. Each time she completed a task, Jack gave her quiet encouragement, never pushing her too hard, but always guiding her. During lunch, Sarah sat under the shade of a large oak tree, eating a simple meal of bread, cheese, and fruit. She watched the horses grazing peacefully and realized how different this life was. In the city, she had always been surrounded by noise and crowds. Here, there was space, calm, and a rhythm that felt strangely comforting. As the afternoon sun climbed higher, Jack suggested they move to another area of the ranch. There, a group of horses had minor cuts and scrapes from their journey. Sarah felt nervous again, worried that she might do something wrong. But Jack stayed by her side, demonstrating how to clean the wounds gently and apply ointment. He explained why each step mattered and why rushing could harm the animals. Sarah worked carefully, repeating each action exactly as Jack showed her. By the time the task was done, she felt a quiet pride. She had faced her fear and learned something entirely new. More importantly, she had discovered that Jack's approach, patient, kind, and firm when necessary, made her feel safe, even in unfamiliar situations. By the end of the first day, Sarah was exhausted but exhilarated. She had seen her own limits and realized that she could push beyond them with guidance and focus. As she walked back to the small house where she would stay, she reflected on her initial fear of changing her clothes and handling the horses. What had seemed embarrassing or frightening at first had turned into an opportunity to grow. That evening, she sat on the porch, watching the sun set over the fields. Jack came out to check on her and smiled. "You did well today," he said. "Most people struggle more than that on their first day." "Thank you," Sarah replied, feeling a warmth in her chest. "I was scared I wouldn't be able to do it." "You just needed to trust yourself," Jack said. "And trust the horses. They'll respond if you respect them and stay calm. It's the same with everything here." As night fell, the ranch grew quiet, except for the soft sounds of the animals settling in for the evening. Sarah felt a mixture of exhaustion and anticipation. Tomorrow, she knew, would bring new challenges, perhaps even ones she could not yet imagine. But for the first time, she felt that she belonged in this world, even if only for a summer. She lay down that night thinking about the words she had said that morning. "Please, don't make me undress." They had sounded so vulnerable at the time, yet they had led her to one of the most empowering experiences of her life. She realized that courage often began with small steps, trusting someone to guide you, daring to face the unknown, and allowing yourself to learn. Sarah drifted off to sleep, with the sound of horses softly neighing in the distance, and a growing excitement for what the next day would bring. The ranch, with all its challenges and surprises, had already changed her. She did not yet know how much she would grow in the weeks to come, but she felt ready to find out. The next morning, Sarah woke up before sunrise, her body still sore from the first day but her mind buzzing with anticipation. Today, Jack had given her a new challenge, one that made her heart race with both fear and excitement. A wild horse on the ranch, known for its stubbornness and unpredictable nature, needed attention. Jack had offered her the chance to work with it, and though she had hesitated at first, she felt ready. After a quick breakfast, Sarah followed Jack to the corral. The horse waited there, tossing its head and pawing at the ground. Its eyes were bright and alert, and it seemed to sense her nervousness. Sarah's stomach tightened, and she took a deep breath to steady herself. "Remember," Jack said, standing beside her, "you have to be patient. Don't force anything. Watch the horse and let it tell you what it's comfortable with. Your job is to guide, not control." Sarah nodded. She could feel her hands trembling slightly, but she reminded herself of everything she had learned the day before. Trust, patience, calmness. Slowly, she approached the horse. It snorted and stepped back, but Sarah held her ground. She spoke softly, letting the horse hear her voice before she reached out. At first, the horse resisted every attempt. It would sidestep her, toss its mane, and nudge the fence as if daring her to come closer. Sarah felt a pang of fear, but she remembered Jack's words. She did not try to push it. Instead, she observed its movements carefully, noting every shift in its posture, every flick of its ears. Slowly, she began to move in rhythm with the horse rather than against it. Minutes passed, and the horse started to respond. It lowered its head slightly as Sarah held out her hand, allowing her to stroke its neck. A sense of triumph washed over her, small, but meaningful. She had earned a tiny bit of trust, and it was exhilarating. Jack watched from a distance, stepping in only when necessary to guide her subtly. He offered quiet encouragement, a nod, or a whispered tip. Move slowly. Let it choose the pace. You're doing fine. Sarah continued her efforts, alternating between gentle touch and calm words. She remembered what Jack had told her the day before. Ranch work was not about forcing strength, but about understanding. Slowly, she learned to read the horse's body language. When it flicked its ears forward, it was curious. When it pawed at the ground or swished its tail, it was anxious. Adjusting to these signals, she guided the horse step by step, never rushing. As the sun climbed higher, Sarah felt a shift. The horse, which had been tense and wary, began to relax under her presence. It allowed her to lead it a short distance within the corral. Sarah's confidence grew with every careful step. She was no longer just a visitor or a beginner. She was someone the horse could trust, even if only a little. During a short break, Jack came closer. "You're doing better than most people who've been here for months," he said with a smile. "See how much observing and patience can accomplish? That's the key." Sarah laughed softly, wiping sweat from her brow. "I can't believe it. I never imagined I could do this." "That's the thing about ranch life," Jack said. "It teaches you more about yourself than anything else. The animals don't lie, they respond to honesty, respect, and patience. You're learning that faster than anyone I've seen in a long time." Feeling encouraged, Sarah returned to the horse. She spent hours with it, gaining small victories a step forward, a lowered head, a softening in its eyes. Each success, no matter how minor, felt monumental. She began to understand the rhythm of ranch work, the slow, steady progress, the satisfaction of guiding rather than forcing. By mid-afternoon, Sarah had achieved something she never thought possible. The horse followed her calmly within the corral, responding to her gestures and voice. She could feel its trust, and it felt like a quiet, mutual understanding had formed between them. Her fear from that first day, even the memory of pleading not to undress or face challenges, seemed far away now. Jack approached her once more, his expression proud. "You listened, you observed, and you adapted. That's the difference between someone who struggles and someone who succeeds here. You've got it." Sarah felt a rush of emotion. She had faced fear, discomfort, and uncertainty, and come out stronger. She realized that the ranch, with all its challenges and surprises, had already changed her in just a few short days. As the sun began to set, casting golden light over the fields, Jack suggested they head to the stables. The work was not done. There were still tasks to complete. But Sarah no longer felt overwhelmed. She moved with purpose, carrying buckets, grooming tools, and blankets with ease. She noticed things she hadn't before, the way the horses shifted as she approached, the patterns of their breathing, the sounds of hooves on wooden floors. Every detail mattered, and she felt herself becoming attuned to it all. Back at the corral, Sarah watched the wild horse settle comfortably, its movements calm and steady. She realized she had done more than care for an animal. She had learned about trust, patience, and resilience. The lessons went beyond the ranch. She thought about how they applied to her own life: the courage to face new challenges, the patience to learn slowly, the importance of respecting others and oneself. Jack joined her at the fence, leaning on the rails as he watched the horse. "This is what ranch life teaches," he said softly. "It's not about fighting the challenge or proving yourself. It's about understanding, growing, and adapting. You've learned that quickly. That's why you did so well today." Sarah smiled, feeling warmth spread through her chest. She looked out at the horizon, where the sky met the fields in shades of orange and purple. She felt proud of herself and grateful for Jack's guidance. She had come to the ranch expecting hard work, but what she found was far more meaningful. She had discovered courage she didn't know she had, patience she hadn't realized was inside her, and a connection to the world around her that was deep and lasting. As evening fell, Sarah helped feed the other horses and secure the barns. The routine was tiring, but satisfying. She felt a sense of accomplishment that went beyond physical labor. It was emotional and mental as well. She had faced fear, learned new skills, and built trust with a creature that initially seemed impossible to manage. When the day finally ended, Sarah sat on the porch of the small house where she stayed, the night sky stretching endlessly above her. Stars twinkled faintly, and the ranch was quiet, except for the soft sounds of the animals settling in for the night. She reflected on everything she had experienced: the fear, the small triumphs, the lessons learned. For the first time, she felt that she was capable of much more than she had ever imagined. She thought back to the first day, when she had said, "Please, don't make me undress." What had seemed like a small, vulnerable plea had led her to a path of learning and self-discovery. She realized that facing challenges, no matter how uncomfortable, often brought the most rewarding experiences. Sarah smiled as she watched the stars above the ranch. She knew that the summer ahead would bring more challenges, more lessons, and more surprises. But she also knew that she had grown enough to face them with confidence, patience, and courage. The ranch had given her more than skills. It had given her a new way to see the world, herself, and the importance of trust and respect in every relationship. She lay down that night feeling tired but happy, a sense of accomplishment and peace settling over her. The wild horse, now calm and trusting, seemed to mirror her own journey. Both had started the day wary and uncertain, and both had ended it with a newfound understanding and confidence. Sarah realized that life, much like the ranch, was about learning to navigate challenges, listening carefully, and taking small, steady steps toward growth. And with that thought, she drifted into a deep, restful sleep, ready for whatever the next day would bring, knowing that she was no longer the same person who had arrived at the ranch only a few days ago.